I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. Some New Yorkers are not forever holding their peace on same-sex marriage. Plus, we bring you the latest news on the historic devastation in Joplin, Missouri.
We know many people are hurting at this time, and it is indeed a sad day in Joplin.
And the healthcare discussion travels beyond the halls of Washington and into the bars of Brooklyn.
It's important. It's stuff we should be considering and thinking about.
Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us tonight. With only 4 weeks left at Albany's legislative session, the clock is ticking on a vote for one of New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's top legislative priorities, the legalization of same-sex marriage. Governor Cuomo's commitment to passing the controversial bill seemed to waver of late. Last week, he announced that he would not bring the bill to the Senate floor if it did not have the votes to pass. And you'll recall that when the measure came up for a vote back in 2009, no Senate Republican voted in support of the bill, and that legislation was defeated. But just yesterday, in another high-profile push for same-sex marriage, Governor Cuomo released a video urging New Yorkers to contact their legislators.
This is a matter of fairness and equality. It is not a question of religion or culture, but a question of legal rights and government policy. When it comes to fighting for what's right, New Yorkers wrote the book, and marriage equality is the next chapter of our civil rights story.
And the state's gridlock over wedlock has rallied the measure's supporters and opponents. Today, the New Yorkers Family Research Foundation held a rally in defense of traditional marriage at the state capitol in Albany. There were many familiar faces in that crowd, including our guest today, State Senator Marty Golden of Brooklyn. Senator Golden joins me now on the phone. Senator, thanks so much for taking time out for us. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it very much myself, Matt. Thank you.
Well, first of all, tell us about the rally today and kind of how things went, who all was there, and all of that.
There were several hundred people in the audience today, and they're walking throughout the building as we speak, meeting with different legislators and trying to get them to give them a answer as to where they stand on gay marriage. The group, I thought, was well attended from across the state of New York, from downstate, upstate, Long Island, right across the entire state of New York. We had many pastors up here as well. We're in the audience. We had Jewish, Catholic, Muslim, Christian, across the board. You had, I think, all faiths and those that really believe that gay marriage is something that should not be tampered with, should not be changed, and that it is the beginning of time. Marriage has been between a man and a woman, and I believe that that's what the audience was looking to get across today, and to be able to get into those legislators and let them know that that's what they'd like to see happen.
Well, in the clip from the video that Governor Cuomo released that we played just a second ago, we heard him say, quote, "This is a matter of fairness and equality. It's not a question of religion or culture, but a question of legal rights and government policy." What's your response to that?
I believe everybody's entitled to rights, and I would not want to see anybody's rights trampled. And there are a host of different ways of getting rights that are being denied. If somebody can show us those rights that are being denied, I'm sure we could work out a way of getting those rights reinstituted or instituted if need be. But tamper with the age-old tradition of marriage between a man and a woman is just plain wrong. If you have no principles to stand on, what are you? What nation are you? So goes the state of New York, so goes this great nation. Is that the direction that we want to bring the people of this great state and the great nation that we live in? I don't think so. Rome took a number of years, 600 years before it fell. I don't know how long this young country of just over 230 some odd years, where it's headed if it doesn't have its principles to be guided by. And I believe that's one of its core principles.
Well, and this is obviously an issue that's very important to you. A few days ago, you introduced a bill, a defensive marriage bill, and basically it would, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but basically my understanding is that it would prohibit the state from recognizing same-sex marriages performed elsewhere in the state of New York. Why is this issue so important to you and important enough to prohibit the state from recognizing same-sex marriages performed elsewhere?
Well, twofold. Number one, my bill does more. It actually that defines a man and a woman as that for marriage. It also goes after those that may have been married in other states or in other locations, and says that it will not be recognized here in the state of New York. Governor Patterson decided by decree to put that into law. And to make that part of the Constitution here in the state of New York. You can't do that. The people in the state have the right to vote, and they vote in legislators. And the legislators have to vote on something, I think, as significant as this. And for him to do that, I think, was just plain wrong. I don't think the votes are in the Assembly for gay marriage. I don't think they're really in the Senate. But I will honestly tell you, over the next 3 weeks or next 11 days or so here up in Albany, there will be a terrific movement to get this gay marriage passed. And believe it or not, they have the ability to do that. And I think I'm fearful that can happen.
And there seems to be something, same-sex marriage seems to be something that the public is in favor of more and more. We see polls headed more toward people favoring same-sex marriage, and in a state that is traditionally blue in New York. Are you concerned that public opinion is turning away from kind of your point of view on this?
I think if you've seen the polls a couple of weeks ago, I think the polls have changed. I think people are starting to really understand what this is about. And people really don't want to discuss gay marriage when they have no jobs. They want to talk about the economic conditions of the state, getting people back to work, people that are underemployed, people that are on insurance. They want to be able to turn around to be able to put food on their table, send their kids to school, and reach the American dream. And gay marriage is not really on the forefront of the many millions of people that live in this great state. So to be force-fed gay marriage here in the state of New York in the final days of a budget negotiation, or I should say not budget negotiation, but the final stages of a closing down of the fiscal year, I think is wrong. And I think it's a good time could be spent better looking at ways to put people back to work, create a better economy, and do a better job for the people of this great state instead of dealing with some of these social issues that we're presently being tied up with.
All right. Well, State Senator Marty Golden of Brooklyn, thanks so much, sir, for taking some time out for us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Well, stay with us. There's much more currents ahead. Coming up, shock and grief in Joplin is met by support and relief from around the world.
We have had a wonderful outpouring of support from volunteers coming into our community.
Welcome back. Rescue crews are still digging through the rubble in Joplin, Missouri, looking for any sign of life after Sunday's historic, deadly tornado. At least 117 people are confirmed dead so far, making it the deadliest twister in the U.S. since 1950. But amid the devastation, people of faith are reaching out to help. Sunday night, a huge tornado hit the city of Joplin, Missouri. When the clouds parted, this was all that was left of much of the city. Homes flattened, businesses destroyed.
It's indescribable. I don't know what to say other than that. I've never seen anything like it.
Survivors said that when the storm hit, all they could do was take cover and pray.
We could hear the home shaking, everything busting out. We got down. He was between me and Zach was hunched over us, and we were just, praying, screaming, and, it was very loud, and it all happened so fast.
The storm also flattened one of the two Catholic parishes in the city. St. Mary's Catholic Church and its affiliated school went from this to this in a matter of seconds. The church's pastor took shelter in a bathtub during the storm. Parishioners rescued him later Sunday night. Elsewhere, 5 patients and 1 visitor died at St. John's Regional Medical Center, Joplin's Catholic hospital, which is run by the Sisters of Mercy. Nearly 200 other patients were able to make it out alive. Medical records from St. John's were found strewn around dozens of miles away. President Obama spoke about the tragedy today during his trip to the United Kingdom.
Our thoughts and prayers are with the families who are suffering at this moment. And all we can do is let them know that all of America cares deeply about them, and that we are going to do absolutely everything we can to make sure that they recover. And on Sunday, I myself will travel to Missouri to talk with folks who've been affected, to talk to local officials about our response effort, and hopefully to pray with folks and give them whatever assurance and comfort I can.
Meanwhile, back in Joplin, rescue crews are still confident survivors will be found.
We did rescue 7 individuals from underneath the rubble yesterday. It's just really incredible, the fact that we're still finding people. We're hoping to find more folks, and that's why we're doing these searches.
We have had a wonderful outpouring of support from volunteers coming into our community to effect that search and rescue.
Many of those volunteers are coming from faith-based groups. Reports say the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod has given $50,000 to relief efforts in Joplin and surrounding areas so far. The Billy Graham Evangelistic Association is also working in the area. The Baptist Press reports that the Missouri Baptist Convention is urging its members to do what they can to help. The Sisters of Mercy are helping other hospitals and following up with patients who escaped from St. John's Medical Center. And Catholic Charities of Southern Missouri sent a team to Joplin today to aid with recovery and relief efforts. They are setting up a headquarters at St. Peter's Church, which was not badly damaged in the storm. Those volunteers and the crews were out working today amid the threat of more severe weather and possible tornadoes. And we posted some more information on how you can help the people of Joplin. It's over on our website. Just go to currentsny.net and click on Riding the Wave. Stay with us, there's more Currents ahead. Are you a fan of Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio? Well, now you can let the world know in cyberspace. We'll have that story and the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up in just a bit, theology and healthcare were on tap at a Queens pub. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave a forceful speech today in Washington to a joint meeting of Congress. It came less than a week after President Barack Obama laid out new U.S. policy for the Middle East and North Africa. Netanyahu said Israel is willing to sit down at the negotiating table.
In any real peace agreement, in any peace agreement that ends the conflict, some settlements will end up beyond Israel's borders. Now, the precise delineation of those borders must be negotiated. We'll be generous about the size of the future Palestinian state. But as President Obama said, the border will be different than the one that existed on June 4th, 1967. Israel will not return to the indefensible boundaries of 1967.
Well, an aide to Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas says Netanyahu's speech is a declaration of war. And a spokesman for Abbas told the Associated Press that with the speech, Netanyahu put more obstacles in the path to peace. Meanwhile, former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak and his 2 sons will be tried for killing protesters. The Office of Egypt's General Prosecutor says Mubarak ordered police officers to use live ammunition to fire into a crowd of protesters back in January. Now, you'll remember that was during the popular uprising that would ultimately oust him from power. Mubarak could face execution if he's found guilty. Well, take out your calendars. The rapture, it seems, has been moved back.
The great earthquake and rapture and the universe melting in fervent heat will all happen on the last day, October 21, 2011. In other words, we've been teaching that it would happen on May 21, but it's all going to be compressed on the last day. And this person has got an insight here that, of course, we're going to be checking out very carefully.
That, of course, evangelist Harold Camping, the president of Family Radio. He had originally forecasted the rapture would happen this past Saturday, May 21st. And when that did not happen, Camping said he was flabbergasted. Well, billboards across the country advertised his message, with some people spending their life savings to get the word out. But now some are striking back. Here's a billboard that popped up yesterday in Greensboro, North Carolina. It reads that, well, quote, "That was awkward." It also includes the biblical quotation from the Gospel of Matthew, "No one knows the day or hour." Reports say the billboard was paid for through an online campaign. Well, the man in charge of the U.S. Bishops Committee on Protecting Children and Young People says the bishops have work to do following the release of the John Jay Report. In an article for America Magazine, Bishop Blaise Supich outlines the 10 steps that bishops need to take. Chief among them, Bishop Supich says that seminarians need to be rigorously screened and that priests should receive annual professional development. Now, to read the full article, just head over to our Facebook page and Twitter feed where we've posted the link. Well, a new study shows that the number of abortions for most women in the U.S. fell over an 8-year period, but rose among poorer women. The study from the Guttmacher Institute shows abortion fell 8% from 2000 to 2008, but rose 18% for women classified as poor. Meanwhile, a new Gallup poll shows Americans are pretty evenly divided on the issue of abortion. The poll shows 45% of Americans saying they're pro-life, while 49% identify as pro-choice. The study also showed that 72% of respondents say there should at least be some restrictions on abortion. Well, meanwhile, leaders from 21 religious groups are asking military officials for clear and strong conscience protections for chaplains who preach against same-sex relationships. In a letter, the leaders say the Defense of Marriage Act is still in effect and that there is no reason it should not apply to the U.S. military. Last year, Congress voted to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. That's the military's policy that bans people with same-sex attraction from serving in the armed forces. Well, closer to home here, some congratulations are in order for a Queens priest. Father Thomas Michalski, Director of Polish-Speaking Vocations for the Diocese of Brooklyn, has been named Chancellor and Rector of St. Cyril and Methodius Seminary in Orchard Lake, Michigan. The seminary prepares men, primarily from Poland, for the priesthood. Father Michalski is currently the pastor of St. Joseph's in Bayside, Queens. He says it will be difficult to leave the Diocese of Brooklyn and particularly difficult to leave his parishioners at St. Joseph's. Father Michalski's new assignment is effective January 1st. And if you've got a Facebook account, why not like the bishop? Brooklyn's own Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio has a new Facebook page. The page includes links to articles on Catholic faith and photos of the bishop. We've linked to the new Facebook page for Bishop DiMarzio over on our Facebook page and our Twitter feed, so be sure to check it out. Well, stay with us. There's much more currents ahead. When we return, we'll take a look at the Catholic perspective on caring and curing.
Important to know where we stand as Catholics as far as what we think is ethically and morally correct.
Finally tonight, have you ever had one of those weeks when it just feels like absolutely nothing is going your way? Well, it must feel like that for Republican Congressman Paul Ryan of Wisconsin. Ever since introducing his heavily criticized budget proposal called Path to Prosperity, life has been, shall we say, just a bit tough. His own party seems to only kind of half-heartedly embrace his blend of cuts and spending measures. Last week, presidential hopeful Newt Gingrich, you might remember, called Ryan's ideas on privatizing Medicare, quote, right-wing social engineering. And now there's this. A liberal group known as the Agenda Project released an ad showcasing a Paul Ryan lookalike pushing a wheelchair-bound senior citizen off a cliff. And that's what they say will happen to America's seniors if Ryan's Medicare proposal is passed into law. Well, it is no doubt an extreme response to what many people believe is an extreme policy. There are always those who see Medicare as more of a federal insurance program for senior citizens, but as a referendum on how this country cares for some of its most vulnerable, particularly towards the end of their lives. And it was the Catholic perspective on that very topic that recently brought people together at Killarney's Cottage in Woodhaven for Theology on Tap.
Truth be told, there are many beautiful and powerful truths contained in the Catholic Church's approach to medical ethical issues in general and to death and dying in particular. And if we study them and understand them, I think it can bring us a certain peace, a certain tranquility, and even a certain quiet joy in dealing with what many people are most afraid of in life, which is the fact of death.
People are here for Theology on Tap. We're talking about end-of-life issues with Monsignor Thalen. Today's talk is important because, especially now with the new healthcare system being put in place and even the medical system that we have currently in our country, it's important to know where we stand as Catholics as far as what we think is ethically and morally correct.
People need to think about issues of life and death before they get to the point where they're in difficulty. And so when you have a clear head and you're able to really ask the questions, learn the distinctions, it's a very valuable thing to learn these things, because then you're able to take appropriate steps early on in your life instead of waiting till things become very difficult. It's important. It's stuff we should be considering and thinking about, and one is never too young to start thinking about these things. It is a good thing to have some kind of advance directive. The patient should have the most to say about his or her health care. However, there are boundaries, ethical and moral boundaries, beyond which we don't have a right to go. So the patient has a certain autonomy, but that autonomy is not absolute. We need to care for those we love, particularly as their condition goes from curative to just caring, from bringing the person back to health to palliative care. And one of the essential topics in that area is pain management. I mentioned to you before how we don't have a right simply to end a person's pain, even though that's a wonderful instinct to do so. We can't just use any means at all.
The patient's autonomy has to always be respected. And I thought it was something that was very interesting was the ethics and medicine, they need each other. Ethics is medicine and medicine is ethics. And if that's not the case, they're not working together, that's how problems start.
Death is not the most frightening aspect of our lives because it's a gateway to more life, and therefore if we deal with it intelligently, there should be a certain peace that comes from knowing that even though we're not in total command, at that point, God is. And for me, it's summed up most beautifully in Romans chapter 14. Here's what Paul writes. None of us lives as his own master. None of us dies as his own master. While we live for the Lord. When we die as the Lord's servants. So then, whether we live or die, we are the Lord's.
Talk about a water cooler topic. Healthcare is on the minds of everyone, and it kind of has been ever since last summer. I mean, even before that, when all the big healthcare debate was going on. And it continues today with all this Medicare talk on Capitol Hill and all of that. So definitely a very timely discussion there at Theology on Tap. They tend to do that. They stay on top of things for Theology on Tap. And of course, we'll keep going and covering those topics because they're always interesting. Well, that is it for this edition of Currents. Now, coming up tomorrow, the Vatican releases a document just ahead of the World Meeting for Families. We'll have that and more coming up on tomorrow's show. Until then, though, be sure to visit us online over at currentsny.net. We're also on Facebook, and we are on Twitter. We're just all over the World Wide Web. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.